And we are off. Late Night Lombardi. I'm back in the city. Drive through the rain. It was a wet freeway, 101 from Santa Clara up to San Francisco after the 49ers 35-7 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady going back to Florida without a win. I have the game book right here. We're going to go through some of the game book. I have a lot of points to talk about. I'm going to show you some cool video. Maybe I need to find video of Brock Purdy's dad because that was the emotional moment of this game, right? I thought, I haven't gotten the chance to see the TV copy of the replay yet, but that's what I do before I go to bed on these Sunday nights. So I still have a lot in front of me. When I do look at the TV copy, I can't wait to see how Fox captured that family moment because it seems like Fox did a really good job with the presentation of this 49ers win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And obviously the big moment for Brock Purdy and his family in his first career start. Here's a stat for you. Tom Brady entering this game had been 6-0 over the course of his 330 game career against an opponent who was starting their first quarterback, who was starting a quarterback making his first career start. 6-0 entering this game. Obviously, Brock Purdy fell into that bucket of making his first career start. And obviously, Tom Brady's record in such games is now 6-1. He is no longer undefeated. A pretty good record for Brock Brady, for Tom Brady. I was trying to conflate those two names there. A pretty good record for Tom Brady, but not a perfect one. 6-1 after Brock Purdy and the 49ers took it to him in this game. Just an obliteration that solidifies the 49ers' status as true Super Bowl contenders. They say that real football is played in December. That's when the season actually starts. So you stay afloat until December, and then you turn on the afterburners once you hit this month. Well, the 49ers have done just that. They've got a 6-game win streak going right now. It's the longest win streak in the NFL. And the last two performances have been resounding statements. One, the win over the Miami Dolphins, and this one, the big one over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Two top half teams for sure, right? The Dolphins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the 49ers blow both of them out of the water. It was closer against the Dolphins, 33-17, but this one wasn't close at all, 35-7. And, the first thing that I have to say, we have to talk about Brock Purdy. This guy destroys blitzes. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers blitzed on 9 of Purdy's 21 dropbacks in this football game. 10 of 22, if you count the very first play of the game, which ended up being nullified by penalty. Kyle Shanahan, tongue-in-cheek joke, he said, we didn't have the right play installed there. Brock Purdy blamed it on himself, but Shanahan just said that it was part of the script. Purdy probably thought that he should have checked out of it, but Shanahan said, I initially thought we didn't have the right play because it was just a complete obliteration from Keanu Neal against Brock Purdy, right? He wasn't picked up at all. And obviously, at the very moment of the play, it didn't seem like the right one. But Kyle Shanahan joked that, we got a 15-yard explosive out of it, so that's good. And then Brock Purdy afterwards said, I didn't check out of the play. I should have ahead of that blitz. I was in the wrong play, but I needed to get hit, and that got me into rhythm for this game. And he definitely got into rhythm, but that shows you the mentality of Brock Purdy. It shows you why the 49ers think that he's a gamer. 16 of 21, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now, the no interceptions comes with an asterisk. I'll talk about that in more detail a little bit later, but let's just put it this way. The Buccaneers blitzed on 10 of 22 dropbacks in this game. And that's a whole lot of pressure. Todd Bowles likes to do that a lot, but it's been 2 weeks of Brock Purdy getting heated up, right? The Dolphins tried to run a ton of zero blitzes on him, and Todd Bowles did his own thing. They weren't necessarily zero blitzes, but it was a complex assortment of Todd Bowles blitzes. And basically, Brock Purdy has faced what you'd expect a rookie to face in the NFL early on in his time as the starting quarterback or as the primary quarterback. And that's been a lot of blitzes. And he's by and large beaten those blitzes, with the exception, of course, being play 1 on Sunday against Tampa Bay. But when you see the final line, 16-21, 9 yards an attempt for Brock Purdy, and then obviously the run game operating off of that, 49ers run game did this, 36 carries for 209 yards. When you see that impressive final line and you see how many times Purdy has been blitzed, you have to realize that opponents are going to stop blitzing him. Opponents are going to start trying to do the opposite to see if Purdy can adjust to that. And the opposite will be dropping defenders into coverage. And the interception today that was nullified by the defensive holding came after Tampa Bay dropped defenders into coverage. So I think we're going to see Pete Carroll do a whole lot of drops in the coverage against Brock Purdy, not that much blitzing on Thursday night in Seattle. And that's just part of a natural quarterback development evolution. You have to prove that you can beat the adjustments with counter adjustments. And what a great example today during Brock Purdy's first career start on the other side of the field. Tom Brady making his 331st career start. Tom Brady, when he made his first start in the NFL, Brock Purdy was about 3 months old. So Tom Brady has stayed in the league because of his adjustment, counter adjustment longevity. And that's what Brock Purdy is going to have to establish now to make sure that this early success continues. But I'll show you this. We're talking about Brock Purdy against Tom Brady. How about this efficiency comparison today? Purdy at the top, Brady at the bottom. Green is above average. Purple is below average. Purdy, 0.44 EPA per play is awesome. I mean, extrapolated over a full season, that'd be number one in the NFL. That's, obviously not the sustainably good number. He's going to run into some struggles moving forward, but you have to tip your cap to Brock Purdy for how well he executed Kyle Shanahan's game plan today. Average depth of target, and wasn't all that far downfield. I know that he did push a couple balls further downfield. Obviously, the Ayuk touchdown and the Christian McCaffrey touchdown were aired out, but the 49ers also kept this as a short game. And it's funny because Tom Brady's average depth of target, 6.6, ended up being higher than Purdy's, even though it was a check down fest for Tom Brady. But the accuracy for Purdy, the execution was awesome. The expected quarterback rating of over 82, also great. Completion percentage over expectation, also great. I mean, he completed 80% of his passes. This was a clinic in efficiency from the 49ers offense and from their rookie quarterback, Brock Purdy, beating the Blitz, whereas it was a clinic of inefficiency for Tom Brady. Tom Brady threw the ball 55 times in this game. And, that's what I wrote the article about right here. So why don't we put that up on the screen? The 49ers defense earned major respect from Tom Brady in smothering Tampa Bay. 55 throws. That's on the heels of Tampa Bay not being able to run the ball against the 49ers. 63 yards rushing, 3.3 a carry. I mean, it didn't even matter if they were able to run the ball because the 49ers jumped out to that 28-0 lead. But 55 throws, that sets you up for some big plays if you're a defense. That's just too many dropbacks, especially considering the fact that Tampa Bay had 2 injured offensive linemen. So Brady, over those 55 throws, averaged only 4.6 yards per attempt. So they just tried to nickel and dime the 49ers down the field. But you give Nick Bosa that many chances to rush the passer, 55. You give Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw that many opportunities to prey on the football in coverage, and you can extend that to Tashawn Gibson and Talanoa Hufanga, who obviously had the big hit against Chris Godwin today, Charvarius Ward, Diamador Lenore. You just give a defense that many opportunities. If that defense is as sound and as dominant as the 49ers defense is, they will victimize you. And one thing, Tom Brady does not throw interceptions. I mean, at a rate relative to the rest of the league, it's much lower, right? Tom Brady had a 0.4% interception rate entering this game. 3 picks throughout 12 games in this entire season coming up to this one against the 49ers. And then he threw 2 interceptions in 2 possessions against the 49ers. And that speaks to a relentless pass rush that was getting after Brady on every single down, despite the fact that they might have been a little demoralized that they couldn't sack him because he was getting rid of the ball that quickly. But the 49ers stayed after it with the pass rush. They hit Brady 7 times, which is exceptional considering the fact that this was a check down fest from Tom Brady. And then they just played so disciplined on the back end. Guys did not get out of position on the back end. The one play that I remember the 49ers getting a little bit of out of position was the deep ball, the touchdown that was nullified to Mike Evans. But the only reason that Jordan Willis didn't have a sack on that play is because Donovan Smith held him and they called holding and they called the play back. So Talanoa Hufanga, learning moment, didn't hurt the 49ers. Other than that, Hufanga, again, when he laid the wood, he was in an excellent position, playing top down defense, not letting the Buccaneers get by him. And that coverage fueled the pass rush for the 49ers. So it's what I wrote about. I wrote about Tom Brady after this game, just effusively praising the entire 49ers defense. But not just that, he effusively praised their linebackers. Like he said, everything is good. They have a good pass rush, they have a good scheme, but he said the 49ers have great linebackers. And on that note, that led to, one of the funny moments of this game. And maybe we can start with the funny moment earlier because I really tracked what Tom Brady was doing today. Obviously, that was one of the primary stories of this game. And I followed the Buccaneers out of the tunnel. And this is Tom Brady right when Tampa Bay is about to take the field. They've already exited the tunnel. And Tom Brady is just soaking stuff in. Here he is looking around. And I've never seen this before from a visiting quarterback. I mean, most times these guys have their helmets on, they're locked in, they look focused. And instead, Tom Brady is just sitting there like a 12-year-old living out his dream. Like he got to step onto his childhood team's home field for the very first time. And he sees Bryant Young, 49ers great, who Tom Brady grew up cheering for, sees Bryant Young standing right next to me. So this is what Tom Brady does. One more time. So that's Tom Brady. I understand the audio wasn't working on that video. I apologize if it wasn't working. Anyway, he tells Bryant Young that he's an effing beast. And Tom Brady's just completely fanboying over Bryant Young. Earlier, Tom Brady was stopping and taking pictures on his way from the bus to the locker room of Joe Montana, Dwight Clark, Roger Craig, and Ronnie Lott posters. I mean, Brady was acting like somebody who grew up on the peninsula going to Candlestick Park while the 49ers were at the height of their dynastic powers in the 1980s and 1990s. And it turns out that that's exactly what Tom Brady was doing in the 80s and 90s. He's going to 49ers games at Candlestick. But what really struck me today was that, Tom Brady actually at age 45, as the most accomplished quarterback in NFL history with all those Super Bowl rings, he came in today and was just acting like a little kid at Levi's Stadium. And I'm not denigrating his play. I'm just talking about how cool it was to see somebody of Tom Brady's stature just appreciate where they were so much. So that's what I wrote my article about, or at least that's what I started it with, because Brady went against this 49ers defense and he just got rocked by the 49ers defense. It's amazing to me that he avoided a sack, but after the game, the tables turned. So Tom Brady was fanboy before the game of the 49ers franchise. And after the game, he started focusing his praise on the current 49ers, not the past 49ers. But you had an amazing dynamic of the 49ers players able to pay some of their respects to a player that they grew up watching, who they thought was great. So Tom Brady pays his respects to the 49ers franchise on the way in. Joe Montana, Dwight Clark sees those posters. Then he sees Bryant Young in person. But then after the game, one of the most hilarious things ever happened. And Dre Greenlaw, who had intercepted Tom Brady, literally walks up to Tom Brady with the football that he picked off from Tom Brady and asks for his autograph on the football. And Tom Brady signs it. No problem. He signs it, and then Nick Bosa comes in. Looked like he signed 2 footballs too. So, anyway, that actually happened after this game. Dre Greenlaw gets the football signed by Tom Brady. You just can't make this kind of stuff up. But anyway, Brady in this football game threw the ball 55 times and he saw what the might of this 49ers defense is all about. I thought that it was poetically fitting that the 49ers defense put this up on the screen for you guys. The 49ers defense in this game surpassed the Dallas Cowboys by the narrowest of margins to take the NFL lead in advanced stats. So the 49ers defense had led the NFL in points allowed per game entering this contest. They were number one, but they weren't number one. And that's a simple stat, right? They weren't number one in one of the more complex stats like EPA per play, which is going to be probably more predictive of performance moving forward. Well, look what just happened here. With that smothering of Tom Brady, the 49ers have taken a decimal point lead, really, right here, like a tiny lead over the Cowboys. They've overtaken Dallas as the number one defense in the NFL. As most of you probably know, Tom Brady was in the house at the Catch in January 1982 at Candlestick Park, where the 49ers also edged out Dallas by the narrowest of margins, 28-27. So whenever Tom Brady's in the house, the 49ers move barely past the Cowboys. That's what I take away from today. 49ers with Tom Brady back in the house, much older this time, age 45, move past the Cowboys. The 49ers are now the number one defense in the entire NFL. And speaking of that, I mean, right here, the 49ers defense is now the NFL's number one unanimous unit. I mean, you could look at simple stats, advanced stats, whatever you want to look at. This is the number one defense. They established that resoundingly here over the past couple of weeks. But more than that, the 49ers are a three-way juggernaut. Offense, and we're going to talk more about Purdy in a little bit, but the offense obviously roaring. 36 carries, 209 yards. That's the best of the run game has been this year, and we've talked a lot about the run game actually struggling a little bit this year. Well, pass set up the run. Kyle Shanahan over the past several weeks has embraced the fact that pass needs to set up the run for the 49ers. And I think today the 49ers blocked their asses off. I think they had an advantage in that Tampa Bay was coming off a short week. They definitely had an advantage after Vita Vea, the 346-pound nose tackle for Tampa Bay, exited with a calf injury. But the 49ers capitalized on that advantage. And, I mean, you had Trent Williams blocking 10 yards downfield, getting guys in open space, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, everybody on that offensive line. McGlinchey on Deebo Samuel's touchdown at the start of the game was awesome. I mean, this was high-level stuff from the 49ers run game. But anyway, we want to talk about the big picture, and the offense is delivering at a very high clip, right? Very high efficiency. Defense, unanimously the top unit in the league. And even special teams has been top five, and that's why I mentioned George Odom. George Odom was a special teams all-pro for the Indianapolis Colts last year. So the 49ers picked up a special teams all-pro, quietly added him in the offseason. He's reserve safety depth, but what he mainly does is cover the hell out of kicks and punts. And today he had 5 special teams tackles that I thought really set the tenor of this game. 49ers players were talking about this. Coaches were talking about this in the locker room. What is George Odom doing to be this dominant on special teams? And I think it's just symbolic of where the 49ers are right now. Offense, defense, and special teams are all playing top 5 football, top 1 football for the defense. And you can only fairly view and understand this 49ers team through the lens of big picture efficiency. This 49ers team, the way that they're playing right now, is head and shoulders above the rest of the league. Over the 49ers' 6-game win streak, this is what the efficiency looks like. Now, this is ever since the loss against the Chiefs, team tiers. This doesn't include special teams, but it includes offense on the x-axis, left and right, defense on the y-axis. Look at the 49ers, top right. This is exactly where you want to be. Team tiers are divided by the diagonal lines, and the 49ers are the closest to the top diagonal line. They have been hands down the best team in football, and that's not even counting a top 5 special teams unit over the past 6 weeks. So it's interesting that the Eagles and the Cowboys, other two NFC teams, are the ones that have joined them in this time frame. But long story short, 49ers are big-time Super Bowl contenders. 49ers are a complete football team. The way that they are delivering right now can only be appreciated if we look at the totality of the effort. And the totality of the effort is represented by complementary football. Offense helps defense, defense helps offense, and special teams helps both of those units. Everything feeds together. And whenever Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have fielded a fully healthy and complementary unit, it has been a machine. It has been something that any football enthusiast just really, really appreciates to watch. It's a buzzsaw, right? We saw a buzzsaw against the Green Bay Packers in the January 2020 NFC Championship game that sent the 49ers to the Super Bowl. We saw a buzzsaw today against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 49ers had nearly 33 minutes of possession. That despite the fact that Brady nickel and dime them to 55 throws. That's impressive for the 49ers. Yards per play in this game, nearly 7 yards per play for the 49ers, 4.3 for Tampa Bay. That's a massive efficiency edge, especially for a team on the other side in Tampa Bay that has a top 10 defense and Tom Brady as its quarterback. Turnover battle also won in the 49ers' favor. The one giveaway the 49ers had in this game was the Deebo Samuel fumble. Hard to blame him, though, when he was being injured on the play. But the 49ers picked off Tom Brady twice. They picked off Tua Tagovailoa last week twice. These are guys who really haven't thrown interceptions outside of their games against the 49ers, right? Tua last week and now Brady this week. The 49ers are creating splash plays and momentum changers defensively that other teams simply aren't creating. And, the reason that Tom Brady was inaccurate was because of the 49ers pass rush. They hit him 7 times in those 55 dropbacks, despite a quick release strategy from Tom Brady and the Bucs to keep him clean. And the 49ers still got there. So, this is, we're seeing next level stuff from the 49ers across multiple phases of the game. And this is the kind of stuff that has them in position for next week. And next week is this week. It's 11:31 p.m. on the West Coast. So in 29 minutes, it's going to be next week. It's going to be Monday. And the 49ers have a chance to clinch the NFC West against Seattle on Thursday. And Seattle did not look good in a home loss to Carolina today. My question is, how the hell is Seattle going to have a chance against the 49ers if they couldn't even beat Carolina at home with so much on the line? And the answer to my own question is, well, it's a short week, and short weeks are great equalizers. Seattle's not as good as the 49ers, nowhere close to it. Remember, 49ers would have shut them out except for special teams back in week 2. But Thursday night games, the bruises that both offensive and defensive lines, like both fronts have to go through, tired lines, it does put both teams in a little bit of a free-for-all, a little bit of a crapshoot. And because of that, I don't think your favorites and your underdogs are as obvious and pronounced as they are in normal situations. Regardless, the 49ers have a chance to clinch against the Seattle team that they're better than coming up this next week with a unanimous number 1 unit defensively. Talk a little bit more about Dre Greenlaw. I mean, this guy's just looking to take people's heads off, flying from sideline to sideline. It's a game like this where you love having both Warner and Greenlaw, right? Because the Buccaneers are trying to chip away. O-line injuries. They know that Brady's 45. They don't want him taking hits from Nick Bosa and company. By the way, Bosa and Ebukam were so frustrated after this game that they couldn't notch a sack on Tom Brady. But anyway, they pressured him and they forced the dump-off game, right? And the dump-off game and the screen city, whatever you want to call it, that necessitates linebackers who fly around. And Dre Greenlaw flew around 15 tackles, and he leaves with an autographed football from Tom Brady off of the interception. That Greenlaw interception was triggered by Kerry Hyder Jr. Hyder and Givens, though, were 2 of the 49ers defensive players who were hurt in this game. And that's going to be something that we look forward to tomorrow, Monday, to see the update on, because the 49ers are probably going to have to bring in some defensive linemen, some interior guys to work out. That being said, Eric Armstead, his return has just helped this 49ers defense enter a new stratosphere. People don't talk about Eric Armstead nearly enough. I know I've tried to drive that conversation. There were ridiculous takes on him over the past couple of years about him being overrated. Well, he's obviously underrated. He's not overrated. He's not talked about enough. This 49ers defensive line is going to have some depth help probably to cross the finish line with some of the injuries that they have. But the fact that Eric Armstead is back is massive, massive news because it's freed up so much for this team. One of the early pressures against Tom Brady on third down involved a devastating package where the 49ers lined up Ebukam and Bosa on the same side. Bosa technically as a defensive tackle, Ebukam on the other side of him. And that just overwhelmed the right side of Tampa Bay's offensive line. And I think that's why Chris Kasarik did it, right? I saw Chris. I said hi to him in the locker room after, but I wish I would have asked him about this play. No Tristan Wirfs. One of the top right tackles in the game wasn't available for Tampa Bay. So the 49ers just stacked the right side of the line and overwhelmed it, forced Brady to just, essentially throw it away. It might have been a check down that was caught. But, this Tampa Bay team didn't have the firepower to keep up with the 49ers. Leonard Fournette looks a little bit overweight, past his prime. I think that Tom Brady probably extended his prime when he showed up in Tampa Bay a couple years ago. But this Tampa Bay run game is number 30 in the NFL DVOA, and they, barely managed 3 yards a carry against the 49ers. Fournette's not impressing anybody anymore. He was running people over in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Wasn't able to run against the 49ers in this game. And then, the weapons for the Buccaneers. Yeah, Mike Evans, still a good player. Julio Jones will still get you a few catches, but it's not the Julio Jones that we used to see. And Godwin's a number 3 receiver. Godwin's not a 1 or a 2, but this Tampa team is not the same team as far as just springiness in their step, youthful exuberance, even though Brady was 43 when they won that Super Bowl, but the Bucs just aren't on that level. They have aged out of that level, and the 49ers showed up and they exposed them in this game. Really, really fast downhill performance from Dre Greenlaw and that defense. And then they earned Tom Brady's respect after his effusive praise of the 49ers linebackers. I should probably read what Tom Brady said about the 49ers defense after. First, he called Bryant Young an effing beast. And then after, Brady shifted his praise to the current 49ers defense, not the former one. They've got great players, he said. They've got a good rush. They've got great linebackers. They've got a good scheme. I could see why they're the number 1 defense in the NFL. And again, the 49ers today, on Tom Brady's watch, surpassed the Cowboys as the number 1 defense in the NFL. Could go back to Purdy here, who destroys blitzes. We had Brock Purdy's dad. Maybe we could find that here. Brock Purdy's dad shedding a tear or 2 or 3 or multiple tears after one of the 49ers touchdowns early in this game. I thought that was an extremely special moment. That's one worth bringing up here on the screen if we could find it from that Fox broadcast. Here it is. Unbelievable. Pop this open. It's Brock Purdy's dad. Emotional after one of the touchdowns. How good must that feel? 16 of 21. You see your son go from Mr. Irrelevant to Mr. Very Relevant, quarterback of possibly the best team in the NFL. The 49ers definitely playing like it over the past 6 weeks. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. This was a battle of 2 Mr. Irrelevants. Ryan Suckup, the Tampa Bay kicker against Brock Purdy, 49ers quarterback. Purdy looked a lot better than Suckup, who missed that field goal. And let's let it be known that Tampa Bay did avoid a shutout. Tom Brady's only been shut out 3 times in his illustrious career, but they got lucky to avoid the shutout. Dre Greenlaw had broken a pass up, and Russell Gage was able to catch it off of the deflection. So Tampa Bay got a little bit lucky there. 49ers disappointed they couldn't get the shutout. Charvarius Ward, Nick Bosa both said they wanted the shutout. They couldn't quite notch it, but just as impressive or nearly as impressive, 35-7 over Tom Brady. There was, Brady's worst career loss had been a 35-point loss early in his time with the Buccaneers. I think it might have been his first game with the Bucs against the Saints, 38-3. They turned around and they beat the Saints later that year. So, that's a good, cautionary tale. Remember that the Buccaneers, they're still in position to make the playoffs. This might not be the last time that the 49ers see Tampa Bay. So Tom Brady has turned around a worse loss in the regular season and turned it into a win later. Cherish these while they come and keep your foot on the gas pedal if you're the 49ers. And one way you can keep the foot on the gas pedal is if Brock Purdy keeps on playing the way that he's playing. Now, there is a concern with Purdy's arm strength and his ability to beat teams that don't blitz and drop into coverage. But it's way better to have a rookie quarterback who knows how to beat a blitz than to have a rookie quarterback who doesn't know how to beat a blitz. Brock Purdy is already further along in his progression, it seems to me, than any of the 2021 rookie quarterbacks in that draft. He looks better than any of the guys from 2021. Probably 2022 too. I mean, this wasn't much of a quarterback draft, but what a steal for the 49ers in that regard. Now, I don't know how Brock Purdy is going to do moving forward, but I do know that developmentally, because of all the college experience, which some people on the internet told me didn't really matter this week, that was pretty stupid, right? But because of all that college experience, because of the moxie, knows how to beat blitzes. He knows how to identify blitzes. He knows how to beat blitzes. The next step in his development is going to rely on beating the opposite. When teams drop guys in the coverage, you have to scan the field. You have to fit the ball into tight windows. You could throw interceptions that way. Most interceptions come when teams drop players in the coverage because there's more defenders and smaller lanes to throw to. To beat that kind of coverage, Brock Purdy is going to have to show a new dimension of his skill set, and it's going to be fascinating to see how quickly he can make that progression, because I think Pete Carroll is going to stress that part of his game. But you look at the 49ers target distribution in this game. Deebo Samuel, 5 targets. George Kittle, 5 targets. Brandon Ayuk, 3 targets. Christian McCaffrey, 3 targets. Kyle Juszczyk, 2 targets. Ray McLeod, 1 target. Danny Gray later from Josh Johnson, 1 target. And Juwan Jennings, 2 targets. Brock Purdy spread the football around. And I think that's the key to beating any type of defense, especially the defenses that start dropping guys into coverage, because you can't zero in on one guy. When you do that, you're going to start throwing picks. So the fact that Brock Purdy is commanding the entire 49ers offense, playbook, seeing the field right now, to me, that's the most important takeaway. He can be, yes, he's only beaten really one type of defense, and that's a heavy blitzing defense, but he's still shown offensive mastery as he's done it. The 49ers talk so much today about the fact that he can take what's choreographed and execute it properly, right? He's composed. He's ready to take what's choreographed, but he can also add his own flair to it. He's got the intelligence to process what needs to be processed, but he also has the wherewithal and the moxie and, just the game to be able to go off script and deliver. Like he spun out of the pocket on that one play before he dropped in a perfect pass to Deebo Samuel. That was awesome. Or the touchdown today to Brandon Ayuk, that play wasn't part of the 49ers game plan. That was just a general play that the 49ers have. It's been specifically installed into previous game plans, but it wasn't part of today's game plan. However, Kyle Shanahan, somebody upstairs saw something, and they said, hey, we can get them with a double move pump fake. Double move Brandon Ayuk, get past the corner. We need the pump fake for Brock Purdy. Normally, you got a 7th-round pick, a rookie making his first career start. You don't feel comfortable adding stuff that's not in the game plan. You're taking stuff from earlier, adding into the game plan. But Purdy's different in that regard. I mean, he's worked hard enough to where the 49ers are comfortable with his knowledge of the playbook, and they picked up an old play. They went back into storage, picked up an old play. It was a double move to Brandon Ayuk, who ran the double move perfectly. Brock Purdy executed the pump fake really well, made the cornerback bite, and delivered the touchdown even while getting drilled. I mean, it wasn't an easy play to do, but he delivered the touchdown even while getting drilled. Now that leads us to the potential downside here, right, with Brock Purdy. Oblique injury. Kyle Shanahan said he's going to be reevaluated tomorrow. Sounds to me like it'd be surprising if he can't go against Seattle, but there is a chance that Purdy wakes up feeling bad, or like really bad tomorrow in the short week, starts to compromise his availability. We won't talk about that potential in detail until we actually know that that's something that might happen. Purdy didn't seem all too concerned after the game, but Adrenaline could change. Adrenaline could die off here over the next 24 hours, and maybe he feels differently tomorrow. But the main point is that Brock Purdy was able to execute through that kind of duress that obviously was painful, and he was able to execute plays that weren't even in the game plan throughout that kind of duress. That's really impressive stuff for the 49ers. And that, when I talk about overall team balance, we look at them through the big picture lens: offense, defense, special teams. Well, that's what's keeping the offense part afloat at that top 5 level. Can Purdy continue doing it week after week? Maybe not, probably not. I don't care, because I'm looking at this week by week, and they need to see him improving week by week. And if the 49ers can unanimously stay number 1 defensively, they're going to give Brock Purdy the type of runway that he needs ahead of the playoffs, when these games get much more important. And then obviously we could start talking about Jimmy Garoppolo after the 6 weeks or so, when that fracture, starts. It's starting to heal right now, I'm sure. But once he is more along the schedule of when he might be a potential to return, we can check in and reevaluate how Brock Purdy's doing then. And I mean, the way that this is going, with the 49ers already on their third quarterback, and their third quarterback hurting his oblique today. And, we're not exactly sure how this is going to affect Purdy for Thursday. With quarterback 4 being at least some sort of a possibility, we are reminded of the 49ers strategy at the start of this year, which was to insulate the quarterback room with as much depth as possible, which is why we should always be talking about Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, Josh Johnson, everybody. We should always be checking in on them, always be talking about them, because obviously the 49ers are only at this point 9-4, number 3 seed, a chance to move up to number 2. They're only at this point if they have quarterback depth, and that quarterback depth has really helped them this season. Now, why don't we talk about that? Why don't we talk about the 49ers and their position within the NFC West and the NFC? Stuff escalated so quickly, right? 49ers entered today not really thinking they'd have a chance to clinch on Thursday at Seattle. But the Seattle Seahawks lost to Carolina. And you know what else happened? The Minnesota Vikings lost to Detroit. Jared Goff has been really good at home this year, by the way. And both of those things happened, so the 49ers are now a win away at Seattle on Thursday from clinching the NFC West. And they are a game behind Minnesota for the number 2 seed in the NFC. Now, this is really important if we're looking at big picture stuff. If the 49ers can pass the Vikings or catch them, and I think through most of the tiebreakers that I've seen so far, that they probably would pass them by gaining that one extra game, the 49ers could enter the playoffs as the number 2 seed. There's a big difference between the 2 and the 3 seed. In that second round game, you could get a second home game, right? 1 seed probably out the window. So going to be tough to get a first round bye if you're the 49ers. But you could get for sure a home wild card game, and you'd get that if you were the number 3 seed. But then as the 2 seed, you're going to get a home divisional game. And listen to this. If you have the NFL's top defense and you have a rookie quarterback, that's in Brock Purdy, you want to play as many games at home as possible, because defense is going to be fueled by the crowd noise, and the rookie quarterback doesn't have to deal with the crowd noise at home. We haven't seen Brock Purdy take the show on the road yet. That's going to be really interesting if he plays on Thursday. But earning as many home games as possible should absolutely be the 49ers' goal for the postseason. Obviously, they got to take it one step at a time. First, you have to beat Seattle. That's going to get you the NFC West crown. And then you could look at positioning as far as jockeying for it with Minnesota. After the Seattle game, it's Washington on Christmas Eve. Then it's a game against the Raiders on New Year's Day. And then it's a game against the Cardinals at Levi Stadium on January 8th. And then come the playoffs. So there's still a lot to determine where all this seeding is going to go. But the picture is clearly illuminated for the 49ers right now. This is the number 1 D in the NFL. It is a juggernaut. They've been awesome, a 3-way juggernaut over the past 3 weeks. And now the 49ers can really start in earnest talking and thinking about playoff positioning, because this team is worthy of a Super Bowl run. And now it's about how can they execute it? How can they maximize their chances, maximize the odds of that moving forward. All right, those of you just walking in, I actually haven't shared the link to my article yet, so it's time to do that. Here it is. The 49ers defense earned major respect from Tom Brady and smothering Tampa Bay. I was able to, follow Tom Brady around a little bit. It was cool to see him interact with all the 49ers memorabilia around Levi's Stadium. And then obviously after the game, it was really neat to see Dre Greenlaw get his own interception ball off of Tom Brady, autographed by Tom Brady. But Tom Brady shared that opinion of the 49ers defense that I think carries a lot of weight because he's Tom Brady. So I thought that was the perfect lens through which to illustrate this defensive surge to number one. The 49ers officially became the number one defense in the league today by both simple and advanced stats. They passed the Cowboys with Tom Brady in attendance. Wouldn't be the first time that they passed the Cowboys with Tom Brady in attendance. I'm referring to Joe Montana to Dwight Clark, but with everything kind of tied in through the Tom Brady angle, I decided to write about that. So go ahead and check it out. I'm going to copy and paste this into the chat section, and it's also in the comment section for you, probably in the description. Well, I think I put that there before this video started. I might go to questions here in a little bit. I think that I've talked about pretty much everything that I want to talk about. Do check out that article. Let's see here. Oh, Deebo Samuel. Yeah, there might be good news on Deebo Samuel, by the way. Initially looked terrible, right? I thought the 49ers, the way they were patting Deebo Samuel on the shoulder, how upset he was. He wasn't able to walk off the field. Seemed like it'd be a season ender. There is optimism. It's a high ankle sprain. And I don't want to say just a high ankle sprain because that doesn't seem right. But yes, there is optimism that it's just a high ankle sprain, which potentially might keep Deebo Samuel out for only a month, right? 4 to 6 weeks. And a month from now, the 49ers won't even be in their first playoff game. January 8th is the regular season finale, and it's December 11th right now. So we're going to find out more after the MRI on Monday, but that's potentially positive news for Deebo Samuel. We'll also have to look at the 49ers' two interior defensive linemen. They've already lost Hassan Ridgeway. Kevin Givens hurt today, and obviously there was the later injury to Kerry Hyder. I'm going to look at a few more statistics in this game, see if we have anything of note before we go over to the comments section. Everybody like the video, subscribe to the channel while you're here. Spino, special teams, the surge of the 49ers special teams unit has been something, right? Top 5 unit over the past several weeks. It's made them a truly complete team. Ray McLeod, 3 punt returns for 43 yards. That's 14 a pop. That's really good. 2 decent kickoff returns too. I thought there was only one bad kick coverage play. Tampa Bay was able to take one back and, net a good kick return. That was probably the start of the second half in this game. But outside of that, 49ers special teams balling out. Jordan Mason, 11 carries, 56 yards. Let's talk a little bit about the backfield situation, because Christian McCaffrey was hitting the outside zone with, the blocking today was awesome. I talked about this a little bit earlier. 49ers benefited from Tampa Bay coming off a short week. They benefited from Vita Vea getting hurt early in this game. But you also, you could benefit from breaks like that, but you also have to capitalize on them. And I thought it was a manly performance from the 49ers offensive line. They took matters into their own hand and said, we're just going to impose our will on this game. We're going to dominate on the outside zone. Kyle Juszczyk is going to help us out with some great lead blocks from the fullback. The receivers are going to do their job. Christian McCaffrey went off today. 14 carries, 119 yards on the ground, receiving that big 27-yard touchdown. Christian McCaffrey was a superstar, but a lot of it was because of how well the 49ers offensive line road graded. There was a lot of that Green Bay NFC Championship win in this performance where they just had what they wanted running the football. Brock Purdy only ended up having to throw 21 times. Against the week before, against the Miami Dolphins, Purdy had to throw 37 times. Today, only 21 times. It was ultra high efficiency football for the 49ers. We saw that run game catch up with the pass game for the first time really this season, right? And when the 49ers can run the football as lethally as they did today, and that was against the really good Tampa Bay run defense, these guys are virtually unbeatable. So to me, that rushing production was it. That was it for the 49ers. And that's why it's like so asinine to sit there criticizing Kyle Shanahan for running Deebo Samuel. One of the reasons why the 49ers kickstarted the run game was the Deebo Samuel touchdown at the start of the game. You were going to run Deebo Samuel. You signed him to be a two-way player. And guess what? It's a physical game. Sometimes guys are going to get hurt, especially if they run with Deebo's style. So you just have to hope that he's not too badly hurt. But this video game management, oh, Kyle Shanahan should run somebody else and do this and that. Deebo Samuel's a superstar. You get the ball in his hands, you let him make plays. He gave you a touchdown earlier in the game, a 13-yarder there around the edge that set the tone for this football game. Unfortunately, later he gave him the ball, and his ankle, his foot got stuck in a spot that you don't want it to get stuck in. And it's an injury, and it's brutal. And I know it's been a recurring theme for the 49ers, but it's been a recurring theme for the rest of the league. Teams elsewhere also suffer injuries. 49ers just beat a team that was really banged up in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The way that you overcome injuries, and the 49ers have, I think from a mental standpoint, they just keep on coming. They're a relentless team. The way that you overcome them is by layering your roster with talent. And the 49ers did that by trading for Christian McCaffrey. They've obviously drafted well over the past several years. They have Jordan Mason in that backfield now behind McCaffrey, obviously behind Samuel too, because Samuel takes handoffs. And you have McCaffrey himself. You can continue running explosive offense even without Deebo Samuel, and that's what allows the 49ers to keep churning forward. And now because of that layered talent, they feel okay without Deebo here for a few weeks, and they hope to get him back maybe with some fresh legs, kind of like Elijah Mitchell for the playoffs. And I think that could put the 49ers in position to get a nice turbocharge come January. But football's a war, and you have to recalibrate. I mean, you're going to lose. There's going to be injury losses, right? There are going to be situations where you lose players, you lose star players, but you just have to pick yourself up and continue plowing forward. And you have the best chance of doing that if your roster is as layered and deep as possible. And that's one area where Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch deserve a whole heck of a lot of credit. All right, I'm going to wade into the question section here. I haven't looked at any of them. I think there's like 500 comments. So if you commented 200 comments ago, sorry, I'm not going to read it. If you commented 10 comments ago, I may not read it. There are no guarantees on the channel except that we talk 49ers football and we have some fun. So if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in there. And I have already provided my update on Deebo. I think the 49ers are hopeful that it's not that serious. MRIs will be coming tomorrow. You got to have the MRI to know for sure. That's why Jimmy Garoppolo's diagnosis changed so much, because one was a pre-MRI diagnosis. They're like, oh, Liz Frank, several months. Then it was the post-MRI diagnosis. It's like, oh, well, it's just a fracture, several weeks. Obviously, a big difference. So we're going to wait for Deebo Samuel tomorrow. Joshua Joseph, can the 49ers beat the Eagles? I think so. I mean, look at the last 6 weeks of both the 49ers and the Eagles. And hey, 49ers are on essentially the same spot as the Eagles over the full season too. But 49ers have been the best team in football, offense, defense. This doesn't include special teams. I think they match up well with the Eagles, but you don't want to play the Eagles till the NFC Championship game. And if you get that 2 or the 3 seed, especially the 2 seed, you won't have to do it until the NFC Championship game. Will Brock Purdy be available for Thursday? Tune in tomorrow. I'm going to have a big injury update. Kyle Shanahan speaks at 10, so we're going to be going a little bit earlier tomorrow. Yeah, make sure to smash that like button. Why do the 49ers waste so many timeouts due to running out of time on the play clock? Well, keep in mind their quarterback's a rookie and was making his first career start. So it's, they probably should have used the timeout on the play that Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt because they're coming out of the huddle late. So who knows? Miscommunication could be on the coaches, could be on the QBs. I don't know what that particular one was, but sometimes it's not a bad idea to use a timeout, or else a free rusher can come in and injure your quarterback. You have the 3 timeouts for a reason, in the first half. It's way, way, way too early to say anything on Purdy or Jimmy Garoppolo. The bottom line is that Purdy is under Jimmy Garoppolo on the depth chart. They've had to go to Purdy because Garoppolo got hurt. And we need to find out if Purdy can beat a team that drops back into coverage. Purdy had an awesome game. I mean, sensational debut. We're sitting here showering him with praise. But the NFL is about sustaining things. It's longevity. It's adjustments and then counter adjustments and a whole parade of that kind of stuff. Jimmy Garoppolo's done it for years, right? Availability has been the main issue with Jimmy Garoppolo, currently unavailable again. Now we need to see if Brock Purdy can A, stay available, and B, stay efficient even through adjustments. So, no, Brock Purdy's not better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Brock Purdy had a really good game, and now we have to see if Brock Purdy can sustain it moving forward. But it was really, really impressive to see a rookie do what he did today in his first career start against a good defense. I mean, Purdy would be a very high draft pick if he was a little bit taller. He certainly knows how to play the position. He has to prove the irrelevance wrong. Better than Ryan Suckup today. The other Mr. Irrelevant. Wasn't a good performance for Ryan Suckup. Yeah, Purdy did run a 4.8. That 4.840 shows up. I mean, he's faster than Jimmy Garoppolo. I could tell you that much. He can move, and he's maybe because he is shorter and has, in college felt the need to bail out of the pocket to see a little bit. Maybe that's given Purdy a little bit of that improvisational chutzpah. I think that's how you pronounce it. Chutzpah. Maybe that's given Purdy a little bit of that dynamic that he combines with the structured play that makes him an exciting watch. I mean, I think today was a very exciting watch. The 49ers players talk about that he's got a little bit of both, that he's got the structured stuff and he's got the off-schedule flair. And that 4.840 certainly helps with the off-schedule flair. Yeah, it's got a solid hop cut. Who has the second spot of the running backs? Well, Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason's the second back. I mean, Deebo Samuel's a receiver, but he gets carries, but he's out now, right? He's going to, in all likelihood, miss some time. So it's McCaffrey and Jordan Mason in that backfield. Another good game for Jordan Mason. Guy runs hard, and Christian McCaffrey said it inspires him. Said how Jordan Mason runs really, really inspires me. I mean, for now, it's not hurting the 49ers' depth to keep Jimmy Garoppolo off IR. I mean, they need to see how this recovery starts. I talked to the orthopedist last week, and there is no tendon torn. So it's about how the bone starts healing, and they'll do everything they can to get that bone to start healing. But the timeline is, you could get him back in 6 weeks if that goes well. Now, is that a probability thing? Like, is that a lower probability? Yeah, it's probably on the lower probability edge of the spectrum, since that would be on the lower side of the return to play timeline, right? The return to play estimate. You're dealing, again, it's just like every other position. You try to layer as much talent as possible because you don't know when Brock Purdy is going to go out and get hurt. He got hurt today with the oblique injury. Now, is it serious? Probably not. But you want to have as much talent as possible for the biggest games possible. So not sending Jimmy Garoppolo to IR, that's the 49ers' way of buying time right now as they figure out how quickly that foot's going to heal. The good news for Garoppolo was that it's not nearly as bad as the initial diagnosis, right? 6 months, it's a whole lot less than that. So now we're playing this game with the clock. And we're also playing this game with Brock Purdy, trying to show that he can build a bridge for the 49ers as far as humanly possible. And today was a really, really promising start in that regard for Brock Purdy. I don't think the 49ers would have done the Armstead-Buckner swap differently. I think the 49ers are really happy with how that turned out. Armstead is worth just as many sacks as DeForest Buckner because he's stopping the run. And he's, I said snowplow in the middle, taking up the double teams. Buckner might actually rack up more sacks for himself, but Armstead is creating sacks for other players. He turned the 49ers into the number one run defense last year, and he was cheaper than DeForest Buckner. That's what a lot of people don't realize. 49ers got a number one pick in exchange for Buckner, and they paid Armstead less than Buckner made with the Colts, so it allowed the 49ers to sign other guys. So the on-field impact of both of these guys is relatively the same. It's different in different ways they impact the game, right? Buckner and Armstead, but they're different players. But overall net impact, just say it's roughly the same. And then the costs are so significantly different for each player. So I don't think the 49ers want to do it differently. And if, I was the GM, I don't think I would have done it differently. It was a popular thing for people to pick on for a while, but it's not really easy to pick on the 49ers defensive success with Armstead down the stretch last year and now with Armstead this season. This is a good point. Adam Peters deserves a big salute in finding Purdy in spite of Trey and Jimmy drama. Yeah, everybody's arguing about Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, and then Brock Purdy swoops in. I mean, remember RG3 and Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins was a later draft pick in that RG3 year, and it was Cousins, obviously, who's gone on to have the much more successful career. Once the draft is finished, it's just about meritocracy in football, especially with Shanahan and quarterbacks. He just needs to find the guy that fits best with him. And right now, Brock Purdy has gotten off to a good start in that regard. Okay. All right, guys. I think I'm going to call it a night. We've been on for 55 minutes. So many questions, so little time. I've got to go watch game tape. But since I'm going to be working for the rest of the night, the least you could do is subscribe to the channel and also subscribe to The Athletic. There you go. 49ers defense earned major respect from Tom Brady in smothering Tampa Bay. Putting it into the comment section for you right there. Go and check it out. Good stuff. Sub to the channel, sub to The Athletic, and follow me on Twitter, Lombardi himself. Hope you enjoyed the show. I work hard to bring you guys content in all different shapes and sizes, and this was an hour-long show at midnight after driving home from 49ers Bucs. Monumental win for the 49ers, 35-7. This team is playing as the best team in football right now. That's point blank. That's simple. 49ers did beat the Buccaneers, and they beat them soundly. And, when you look at the three-way juggernaut, offense, defense, special teams, oh boy, stuff is going well. Game balls for the 49ers. Obviously, Purdy on offense, Dre Greenlaw on defense, George Odom, 5 special teams tackles. All really, really impressive. All right, everybody take care. Thanks for joining. We'll talk to you on Lombardi's Look Back tomorrow. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan speaking early tomorrow, too. So we'll have an update on Brock Purdy and more of that for you. Sub to the channel, and I'll have the news prepackaged, ready to go for your convenience on Monday. Take care, everybody. Thanks again.